Hey guys, so quick update. I know I mentioned in the last video that I was having to take the intake and stuff off, so it is like 40 fucking degrees today. So I've gotten in super early. I've been out here since like 6:30 working on the car. Where we're at, so intake is obviously completely off and sitting, yeah. As much as I didn't want to, I had to end up draining coolant. I don't know if you can see the little bucket down there. Drained enough out because these are actually, this one here, that's your heater return and stuff. I've also teed into it for the turbo return feed for the coolant, but that's one of your heater returns in there. This actually goes through, it's like a cold start temp fucking thing. It's a little valve that basically coolant runs through there. There's a little valve vein thing in there that as this heats up, it opens and closes. This then sends signal to the ECU to kind of adjust. This goes into, this runs through down, you can see kind of down the bottom, runs through, pressurizes. It's all to do with the fuel system and fucking, I don't know. It's a pain in the ass. It's shit I don't need. Yeah, let's not worry about that. But all you need to know is this coolant runs through here, down, in, out. So there's coolant everywhere. So I basically had to get the coolant level down because obviously the intake kind of sits here. That's got coolant all through it. I had to get the coolant level down far enough I could take the intake off. There's any coolant everywhere. That was a whole bunch of long way of saying intake is off. I have already done the injector, so this is why I was sort of saying in the last one that having a forward-facing plenum just makes life so much easier to service these. So if I want to get to the spark plugs or anything, I'll get the intake and show you. Oh, heavy bloody big lump of steel, or aluminium to be honest, but that generally sits something like that. And as you can see, here's your spark plugs. So these two you can get to, these two you can kind of get to. 3 and 4, you got absolute bucklers you're getting to while this is on. Trying to do anything with the fuel rail that now sits all under here, just like everything, there's no maintenance possible. It's not easy to get to anything to kind of check fuel lines, especially when I'm going to be going to E85 and higher pressure fuel lines and fuel system. Being able to get in and just make sure everything's tight and sort of do those safety checks before an event. I can't do that with all this shit in the way. So what I'm looking at doing, I should have grabbed this one instead. I have a spare intake. Let's just sit this on the ground gently. I do actually have a spare intake here that I'm going to clean up. You can see I've kind of marked out roughly where it's going to go. This is alley, so I'm going to get a bit of alley to put into here. But effectively, a bit of stainer, same size. I'm going to go 3 inch because I've got 3 inch intake the whole way around. Effectively cut this out. That piece is into there, and then obviously extends a little bit past and sort of angles down so I can put my throttle body onto it. So as you can see, if I cut this off, here and have the intake sort of coming here, the injector rail I'm getting is also smaller. It hasn't got these big rubber blanks on it. The whole thing sits down a little bit further, but even just taking this here, I'm going to have, get this on, having that there, so it basically comes to, you know, the same length as what that is now. Having it not coming any further than here, I've got access to all my injectors, all my spark plugs. I can check the fuel rail, I can check the fuel lines, I can do all that sort of stuff here pre-event, and it's just going to give me a lot more access to stuff that I want to check prior to events. There's been a few people, those in drifting have probably seen it. There's been a few people 2025 season that had some pretty scary fuel fires. I'm paranoid as shit about that now, which, to be fair, you probably should be. It should be something you probably should be checking before every event. And I know pretty much both of them were essentially the same thing, or very similar kind of scenarios. I know one was literally just the thread in the billet fuel rail had just stripped, whether it's through vibration. I think they're both running SRs as opposed to RBs, but that's just like the point. The same shit can happen to either. One, the threaded kind of just vibrated, just the vibrations in the engine just ended up stripping the thread in the fuel rail. The fuel rail had lifted enough to let one of the let the injector leak, and Sure, obviously, fair enough. That leaks. You've got massive high pressure fuel lines and fuel pumps, fuel spew into engine, shit go everywhere. The other one that most of you will know from Old Time Attack, similar sort of thing. Just a fuel rail got a little bit loose. One of the injectors got a little bit loose. Spraying fuel over the engine bay. Shit gets hot. Shit goes boom. Very, very easy for something like that to happen, and very, very easy for something like that to miss. Especially if I'm staying with that crossover and having kind of all the injectors and stuff sort of hidden. I'm sort of building up myself a list of things that I want to do pre-event checklist. Fuel lines, fittings is top of that list. Fuel, then oil, then coolant, then the rest of your fluids, your oils, and that sort of stuff. Very, very paranoid about having that kind of an issue in an event. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. But yeah, having that forward-facing plenum is just going to make a huge, huge difference to having that access and being able to get in and do that, and just general maintenance on that thing. If I need to change spark plugs because the spark plugs are gone, I don't have to take the whole freaking intake off. It's just a whole mess. A few other things that I'm looking at possibly doing, haven't quite released them yet or spoken about them yet, so they'll be coming in future videos and future kind of little sneak peeks. That will also help with a lot of maintenance stuff and a lot of access and just cleaning up engine bay in general. When I take this out and work on it, I want to clean up as much as I can, lines and cables and hoses and stuff like that. I just want to make it neat, clean, simplify as much as I can to make things, again, I don't want to be doing a huge amount of maintenance, and when I do maintenance, I want it to be quick and I want it to be easy. I don't want to be having to take half the engine apart to do simple stuff. So modernizing a few things, don't know what the hell that was. Modernizing a few things, cleaning up a lot of things, and just making it nice and easy and kind of as, I wouldn't say user-friendly, but as user-friendly as you can for a drift car. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm going to get stuck back in. So now we just need to, obviously not this manifold, but put the other intake back on. Just need to tighten down all the fuel lines, make sure everything's all nice and tight there. Everything's all back on, put the little screws on to hold the injectors in place. I don't know if you haven't seen RB30 injectors before. I'm not sure how much you can see here. Not the greatest light, obviously. There is a little retainer here that pushes down on there's an O-ring and a circlip behind here. Little bolt hole, and it kind of bolts onto the manifold there to kind of hold that injector in nice and hard into its seat. And then yeah, fix all that back up. I may or may not have torn the gasket getting it off in between these two pieces. I do not have another one at the moment, so there's a high likelihood that's just going to be gasket goo when I put that back on. It's got one event. I know I keep saying it, but it has one event. But yeah, get this all back together. And then yeah, that should be obviously top the coolant back up. I'll do a quick once over. Just want to double check gearbox oil levels, diff levels. Actually, diff was all good. It's the gearbox I just want to top up. Just check all brake fluids and stuff like that. And then yeah, she should be good to go for Luddenham. Give a bit of a run. Hopefully this will fix the misfire that we were having. And she'll run a little bit nicer and neater and smoother. Yeah, but it is, as I said, stupid freaking hot. It's like 40 degrees today. It was like 37 yesterday. Didn't cool down overnight at all, and it's like 40 something degrees today. So I don't know how much more of this I'm going to get done today. I've got to duck out and do some other errands, so try and get as much of this done, and then inside in the aircon, do some computer work, do some design, do some sim drifting. I might jump on this afternoon and do some live sim drifting, so keep an eye out for that, because I'm trying to get a lot more of that done too. So yeah, until next time, cheers, see you later.